हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे चैनल इग्नू सेंटर पर। तो दोस्तों, ये आपका पार्ट 2 का वीडियो है जिस पर हम आपके साथ क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 डील करेंगे। और हमने प्रीवियस वीडियो पार्ट 1 पर आपकी जो क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 का ABCD क्वेश्चन था वो डील किया था। अगर आपने वो वीडियो नहीं देखा है तो जाकर देख लीजिएगा। और अगर आप हमारे चैनल पर नए जुड़े हैं तो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब, लाइक, शेयर ज़रूर करिएगा। और अगर आपकी कोई क्यूरी है इस रिगार्डिंग तो आप कमेंट भी कर सकते हैं नीचे कमेंट बॉक्स पर। तो दोस्तों, स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का हमारा सेकंड क्वेश्चन। राइट अ क्रिटिकल नोट ऑन चौसर आर्ट ऑफ पोर्ट्रेचर इन द जनरल ब्लॉग। एंड द आंसर फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन इज ऑन द एसेल of English poetry, Chaucer flourished the fantastic color of his words and paint different character of his age with minute observation. Indeed, he is a great painter who paint not with colors but with words. Undoubtedly, he has the seeing eyes, the retentive memory, the judgment to select, and the ability to expound. His keen analysis of the minute detail of his character, their dresses, looks, and manner enable him to present his character lifelike and not mere bloodless abstraction. His poetical piece, The Plug to Canterbury Tales, is a rare picture gallery in which 30 portraits are hanging on the wall, with all of their details and peculiarities. Rather, it is a grand procession with all the life and movement, the color and sound in it. His character represents English society, morally and socially, in the real and recognizable type, and still more representative of humanity in general. So the character in Chaucer, the Plug, are for all age and for all land. Chaucer is the first great painter of character in English literature. In fact, next to Shakespeare, he is the greatest in this field. In the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, the 30 portraits traced by Chaucer give us an excellent idea of the society at that time. Except for royalty and aristocracy on one hand and the robbers or outcasts on the other, he has painted in brief practically the whole English nation. The 30 pilgrims, including the host, belong to the most varied profession. The knight and the squire present the warlike element of the society. The learned and liberal vocationer are signed by the man of law, the doctor, the Oxford clerk, and the poet himself. The merchants and the shipmen stand for the higher commercial community, while the wife of Bath and expert cloth maker represents the traders and manufacturers. Agriculture is represented by the plugman, the miller, and the franklin. The upper servant like municipal and the reeve, and the lower servant like yeoman and the cook represent the town and country between them. The monk from his monastery, the prioress from her convent, her attendant priest, the village parson, the roaming friar, the patroner, and the summoner sufficiently covered the casual categories of the religious order in those days. To preserve the distinction among these types, this typical character, Chaucer has indicated the difference in their clothes, manner of speech, habits, and tendency, representing the common traits and the average characteristic of each profession. These personages, therefore, are not merely phantasm of the brain but real human beings. These characters represent various types of contemporary society. They are no longer merely demiurges or types, but owing to their various particularities, their argument and agreement and their likes and dislikes were recognized them as real living beings, true to the mold in which all human nature is cast. His world is almost freak-free, and his characters are perfectly lifelike. Some of them are so modern that they seem to be living today. The old knight is an example of the troublous character which is found in every generation. The square is just the typical man of any day. So friend, till here our second question was finished, and now we move to our next question, which is question number 3. And the question was, consider Herbert as a religious poet. And the answer for this question is, just as Herbert is considered as a religious poet because of the subject matter of his poetry, which is fully devotional and religious in nature. By his poet, he completely surrendered himself to God and his master Jesus. Although he was associated with the metaphysical group, he was exceptional for his treatment towards religious in his poetry. For his devotion to God, he is known as the saint of the metaphysical group and is religious, though afterward influenced other metaphysical poets. However, his devotion to God reflects in his poem, and we find a great touch of religion in almost all of his poems. He was a churchman of the Anglican Church, and his religious faith had grown and developed in this church. He was influenced by it right from his childhood under the benign guidance of his pious mother and seasoned family chaplains. And long after the completion of his university graduation, he was ordained and placed over the little church of Bemerton. Herbert's mind was molded by religion and by the Anglican Church, as he was brought up in religious atmosphere, and his religious faith is shaped by his pious mother. We see that his poems are the representation of his care, mind, and thought. His poems are nothing but the true expression of love towards God and Jesus. As Rose Macaulay says, Herbert is, in a sense, the first of the Anglican poets, the first Anglican poet, that is, whose whole expression and art was colored by and confined within the wall of his church. Herbert find and get satisfaction writing religious poem. Even the two sonnets that he sent to his mother when he was only 17 years old are the symbol of what kind of poet he wanted to be. In his after years, he writes divine poems and sees beauty only in God. He is all for God, his king, whose praise he will sing in a plain, homely language. Even just before his death, he gave a manuscript to one of his friends, and the message that he gave is worthy. He said, "Deliver this little book to my dear brother Ferrar, and tell him he shall find it in a picture of many spiritual conflicts that have passed between God and my soul. Before I could subject mine to the will of Jesus, my Master, in whose service I have not found perfect freedom." However, Herbert is called the devotional or the religious poet because he deals with such subject. The theme of most of his poems is religious. He deals with the soul, God, life after death. the relation between human spirit and sense, and so on. He talks of man's relation to God, of body to the soul, of the life here and to the life after. In this relation, he often shows rebellion, reconciliation, and the final submission. Moreover, his poetry is a sequence of religious poems. His motive is always to make the divine seem original, the sequel imitation. He sees the things of daily life in direct relation to a supernatural order. Heavenly truths are indeed what he looks for in all his poems. There are many poems in which Herbert devoutly offers his homage to God or Christ and makes surrender of himself to the Almighty. These are poems of untroubled faith in which the tone is truly one of affirmation. Easter Wing is one of such poems. The theme of his poems is that paradise was lost through Adam's sin, but was regained by Christ's sacrifice. The underlying idea is that the fall of man is essential basic of his rise, or in other words, if there is no fall, there can be no flight. Here he says, Lord who creates man in wealth and store, though foolishly he lost the same, decaying more and more till he became most poor. So feel so friends still here? Yeah, answer was completed, and hope you all like this video session, and in the part 3 we discuss number 4, and I would like to say once again, if you are new to our channel, please make subscribe because it was very helpful to you all and for your course. Thank you.